What up? What up? Hey, it's AMC, and we're back with chapter 46 of Marry My Husband. The last couple chapters, drama, okay? Jiwon broke up with Minwon, called his parents out on being pieces of shit. Sumin talked shit about Jiwon, then slept with Minwon multiple times now, and is trying to stay with him because she can't believe somebody likes Jiwon more than her. Can't be possible. Sumin sends their old classmate to Jiwon's apartment so Minwon sees it and uses that as an excuse to say that Jiwon is cheating on him, so he doesn't feel bad for cheating on her. Eunho is still adorable and making tasty treats. And Ji-hyuk and Jiwon ended up at a hotel, so she didn't have to worry about the creepy guy that she went to school with showing up at her apartment after Ji-hyuk left. He almost hit her too, the creepy guy. But yeah, that's where we last left off. I hope you've been doing well. Thank you so much for coming to listen to me. And if you like my videos, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And let's get into chapter 46. That night at the hotel. Jiwon sat on the bed, distractedly flipping through the television channels. Her phone was silent next to her. Apparently, Sumin was faithfully carrying out her role. Just like Mr. Yu, Jiwon muttered as she lifted a massive pillow onto her knees. Ji-hyuk didn't answer her when she asked him to pretend to be her boyfriend. All he said was this: "Please compose an agenda and manual, then email it to me." It was a signature Ji-hyuk answer. Surprisingly, he performed even better than she had expected. Sang-chul always teased and bullied other students throughout his school days, picking on the students who were smaller and weaker than him. To rich kids, troublemakers, and other kids with influence in the school, he was quite kind. He was the perfect example of looking strong to the weak and weak to the strong. He wouldn't bother Jiwon any longer since he would think there was someone larger and stronger than him by her side. Still, she had been taken by surprise. She hadn't imagined Ji-hyuk would twist Sang-chul's arm like that. The Ji-hyuk she knew was very removed from violence. Rather, he was almost too rational and composed. But he twisted a stranger's arm almost to the extent of breaking it. In the past, he also grabbed Jong-uk by the collar, and before that, he had easily removed Minwon's hand from her. Was she being a little egotistical if she thought he only acted irrational whenever something happened to her? No, girl, you're not being egotistical. He already told you he liked you. Jiwon rested her chin on her knees and clicked the remote button. She stopped when she got to a familiar channel. Wow, I can't believe this is on. It was the return of a rerun of a variety show she used to watch often, so much so that she remembered being upset for a few days after hearing it was suddenly canceled. Thanks to the show, Jiwon was momentarily able to laugh without a care and escape her troubles for a while. She was laughing so hard, she didn't realize how fast the time was going. Jiwon wiped her tears during the mid-show commercial break and was taken aback when she looked at the time. It had been an hour since Ji-hyuk said he was ordering the food. Does room service always take this long? Just when she was wondering whether they had to simmer it for a while to make the broth thick, someone knocked on the door. Tap, tap. Coming! Speak of the devil. Jiwon hurriedly opened the door and jumped in surprise. Anyone would have been shocked if they saw the man that was standing in front of Jiwon's door. He was about the same height as Ji-hyuk, but a lot more muscular. No, the word thick described him better. Thick! His head was shaved in a crew cut, and a single glare from his sharp eyes would make Sang-chul run for his mommy. Just a moment. Jiwon frantically attempted to shut the door, but the man stuck his heel in the door frame. Ma'am. He addressed her by forcing the door agape, revealing his massive sides again. When his lips curved up towards the ceiling, Jiwon stepped back in fear. Who are you? Room service. The man stepped into a room. Can I come in for a moment? You're already inside. Jiwon backed up against the wall. The man set the tray he had brought onto the table. Enjoy. He grinned and gave a 90-degree bow. It was such a scary expression that Jiwon would rather faint than see it. She was beyond relieved when Ji-hyuk came through the open door. The room service took a while, he said to the man as he calmly entered the room. I apologize. There were no chives. It's fine. Thank you, Ji-hyuk dismissed him. Yes, sir. Enjoy, ma'am. The man who also bowed at a 90-degree angle to Ji-hyuk and left. Jiwon couldn't breathe properly until the door closed. If she had known room service was this scary, she wouldn't have ordered it. Damn, girl. With that, the first room service Jiwon had in her life was stored in a horrendous memory. Why are you standing like that? Ji-hyuk set the utensils next to the bowls and brought a bottle of water. Only then did Jiwon see the steaming pork and rice soup with chives, diced radish kimchi, and peppers. They were perfectly plated on clean white bowls fitting for a hotel. Something strange. She sat at the table and soon realized what it was. These hotel trays are peculiar, she said. They weren't exactly the type of trays she imagined hotels would use. They were round aluminum trays with eye-catching flowers at the center. It's retro, Ji-hyuk replied after a moment of silence. Retro? It's the trend these days. Retro, he explained. Oh, retro. Jiwon remembered how girl groups wore outfits from the 80s and sang disco. She looked back at the trays and looked like they had been used for 30 years in a local restaurant run by grandmas. She was astonished by the hotel's special attention to details. You should stop looking and eat before it gets cold. Ji-hyuk pushed a mountain of chives in front of her. She dumped salted shrimp into the broth and took a big spoonful of seasoning. She also tore up a pepper and dunked the pieces in the soup. Lastly, she piled chives on top of the bowl and mixed everything with a spoon, then tasted it. It's good, she muttered to herself. She thought she saw Ji-hyuk smile faintly. Am I seeing things? When she looked again, his lips were in a straight line like always. Do you always not use seasoning, Mr. Yu? She asked. Ji-hyuk's soup was clear and white. Won't that be too bland? It's my first time eating this, he said. Oh, you should have told me. That made sense. Jiwon took Ji-hyuk's spoon and seasoned his soup her way with a bunch of chives on top. Here, it's tasty if you put everything in it. Ji-hyuk wordlessly ate a spoonful, but it looked like he was eating paper. Does it not taste good? She said tentatively. It's good. He still looked like he wasn't enjoying it. Well, he always has that expression. Jiwon looked at the fancy flowers on her tray and ate her portion. In the meantime, the mid-show commercial break was finally over. Jiwon's eyes moved from the retro trays to the variety show on TV. It was hilarious. Wasn't it illegal for people to be so funny? Jiwon forgot about Ji-hyuk's presence and doubled over in laughter. What are they doing? She realized she was laughing too realistically when she found herself slapping Ji-hyuk on the shoulder. Oh, Ji-hyuk rubbed his shoulder, having done nothing to be slapped 5 times in a row. I do that too. It's okay. It's okay, Jiwon. I'm sorry. I have a bit of slapping my pillow when I laugh, Jiwon said, embarrassed. Your pillow? His expression darkened even more. Jiwon quickly backtracked. I'm not saying you're a pillow, she said hastily. It's fine. You can. He trailed off quietly. What did you say? Jiwon moved her ear closer to Ji-hyuk, not hearing what he muttered after saying it was fine. Nothing. Let's eat before it gets cold. Ji-hyuk scooted his chair a bit further away and started eating again. Jiwon turned the television off so she wouldn't make the same mistake again. You can keep watching, he assured. It's okay. It's almost over anyway. Only the sound of spoons clattering remained in the room. Jiwon regretted turning the television off. You must like that TV show, Ji-hyuk said. Jiwon was glad for a change in topic. Yes, I've liked it since it first came out. The ratings were really low back then, and I remember writing comments online to recommend the show in case they cancel it. I see. That was it. Jiwon tried to extend the subject to get rid of the awkwardness. Do you have any programs you enjoy watching? It was probably the news. I watch the news, he said. I knew it. But that was funny, he added. What we just watched? Jiwon asked dubiously. He didn't look like he found it funny at all. Yes, we should watch it together next time. Yes, we should watch it together. Watch variety shows together? Where? Jiwon flinched and looked at him. He was focused on the soup in front of him like he didn't mean anything else by the comment. Jiwon silently ate her soup, embarrassed about her imagination. The food was delicious. Is this the taste of a fancy hotel? Thank you for the meal. They finished around the same time. Ji-hyuk nodded when Jiwon set her spoon down and thanked him. Likewise. He handed Jiwon a napkin and used one to wipe his mouth too. They usually take the bowls if we leave them, but let's set them outside. Good night. Ji-hyuk tidied up the bowls and returned to his room after placing them outside. None of the happenings of what happened at a hotel with a man and a woman took place. The soup was the end. I guess I'll take a shower, Jiwon mumbled to herself self-consciously and took off her clothes. Ji-hyuk had no idea what that damned rice soup tasted like. He hadn't even known it wasn't seasoned. He loosened 2 more buttons on his shirt and sat on the bed, covering his face with his hands. All they had done was eat rice soup at a hotel. Even their rooms were different. That was all. But the happenings of a man and a woman at a hotel unfolded in his mind, clear as day. Damn it. Oh, Ji-hyuk. Okay, I see you. He pulled out a can of cold beer from the refrigerator. He never watched TV, but he turned on the television to get rid of his dirty thoughts. The program Jiwon enjoyed was still running. She was pretty. It was the first time he had seen Jiwon smile so brightly like that. When she laughed and touched his shoulder, he felt like his heart had dropped to the ground. He simultaneously felt grateful for the despised the program that made her laugh so much. I'm not saying you're a pillow, Jiwon had said after slapping his chest. It was all because of that variety show that he responded without thinking. You can use me as a pillow. What would have happened if Jiwon had heard him? He didn't even want to think about it. He downed 2 cans of beer, crushing the second can and tossing it in the trash, then proceeded to search for his phone. It was gone. It wasn't on the bed, the table, or in his pockets. He suddenly remembered taking his phone out in Jiwon's room and placing it on a table. Great job, idiot, he snorted at himself and headed for the room that was next to his. Tap, tap. Was she already there? There was no response. He tentatively knocked a little louder. Tap, tap. I'll be right there. This time she responded and the door clicked open. I left the tray outside. Huh? The door that had opened about a hand width slammed shut. Ji-hyuk froze with his fist still raised from knocking on the door. It had only been a fleeting moment, but he saw she had been dressed in a bathrobe. She had damp skin and flushed cheeks, and her collarbone was slightly showing. He also smelled a soft and sweet scent. Her tousled wet hair was resting on her shoulders. "Oh, Mr. Yu," Jiwon asked in a shaky voice through the door. "Uh, I'm sorry, did you need something?" Ji-hyuk finally resumed breathing again. The scent from earlier escaped her door and filled his chest. I left my phone behind. I came to get it," he said, forcing the words out. "I'll look for it. Where is it?" "Next to the TV." Soon the door opened a tiny bit. A pale hand slid through the crack with Ji-hyuk's phone. "Here, I just took a shower, so I can't give it to you myself." Excuse me," he apologized. He couldn't see anything because of the door, but Ji-hyuk turned his head to the side as if Jiwon was standing directly in front of him as he reached out for his phone. His hand wandered a little too far and touched her fingers. They were warm and soft. A pulse of electricity sparked from their connected fingertips to his feet. Ji-hyuk froze, unable to move away or let go of her hand. The phone dropped from Jiwon's hand. Uh, uh, I'm sorry, Mr. Yu." "It's all right," Ji-hyuk replied, not even knowing what he was saying. He picked up his phone with stiff, jerky movements. "I apologize for bothering you. Have a good night." "You too, Mr. Yu." Jiwon paused and continued again. "I'll see you tomorrow morning." There wasn't any more space for his heart to fall, and yet it thudded to the ground once again. "See you," Ji-hyuk barely managed to say. He opened another can of beer as soon as he returned to his room. His pounding heart still wouldn't calm down, so he went into the shower. He thought he had settled down after standing under the icy water, but he was wrong. He banged his head on the wall while while squeezing some body wash into a shower ball. It was a soft and sweet smell, the very scent coming from Jiwon earlier. Even after he washed up and dried his hair, the smell wouldn't go away. He emptied another can. He emptied another can of beer and turned off the lights to lie down. Then suddenly he shot up from the bed. It was because of that damn body wash. It felt like Jiwon was laying down with him because of the scent. He couldn't tell if it was a delusion or his imagination. What am I thinking? He turned the lights off again. Ji-hyuk spent the night with his eyes wide open, not getting a single wink of sleep. Aww, that's so cute. I like that they're starting to show his perspective now, because if we see what Jiwon's seeing, she doesn't see any of these feelings that he's internally playing through or going through, which is hilarious. Let's see. One of the comments, amazing. My absolute favorite trope is male lead driven to insanity by the smallest amount of closeness with female lead. And man, did this deliver. Agreed. I think it's so cute. Ji-hyuk like, don't get a boner. Please don't get a boner. And I've got a boner. Oh, here's somebody. Wow, here from the webtoon, and it's missing the moment they trip over each other, and I am screaming. I think somebody said, I wonder if she felt the spark too. I think she did, and that's why she dropped his phone. Oh my God, they're so adorable. Okay. So that's the end of chapter 46. And we'll be back with chapter 47, which is called Dog Like Ji-hyuk. He is kind of like a puppy. Especially, he's a puppy when it comes to Jiwon. And we're back with chapter 47. A Dog Like Ji-hyuk. Here, Oppa. Sumin placed a hot pot of soup in front of Minwon, who was sitting down looking completely shell-shocked. She gave him some kimchi, water, and a bottle of soju as well. I don't feel like eating, he mumbled. Suman made this just for you. Have some. She blew on a spoonful of soup to cool it and put it in Minwon's mouth. Sleep at my place today. You can drive after drinking, she added. Minwon popped open the bottle of soju and gulped it down. His heart burned more than his throat from the alcohol. He imagined it being crushed like foil beneath Jiwon's feet. Oppa, Suman said pitifully and leaned on his arm. Forget her. I'll do better. Cut the crap, Minwon said vexedly and shook her off. The only thing on his mind was Jiwon. Jiwon and Jiwon. That should have been the same for Jiwon as well. How dare she call off their marriage and meet someone else? Oppa? Suman asked hesitantly. Fuck, he shouted brusquely. Stop the oppa crap. You're giving me a headache. Suman's eyes widened and became wet again. The tears that once made him want to protect her meant nothing to him now. Rather, he was sick of them. Stop crying, okay? I already feel like shit, so stop crying, Minwon muttered. But when he abruptly embraced her and whispered in her ears, No, I made a mistake. I must have lost my temper. You understand, don't you? I'm okay, Oppa. I completely understand. I knew you would. Minwon took her in his arms and gently patted her back. The sickening crying noises stopped only after he continued the action until his arms hurt. Are you okay? He asked in a soft voice. Suman smiled. Yeah, I feel a little better. Good. Minwon pulled out a tissue and wiped her tears. Then think of what I need to do to get Jiwon back. Suman looked at him, horrified. You always talk about how you're her closest friend, so you must know how I can take her back from that bastard, right? He wanted to beat up that bastard and steal Jiwon back for himself. However, he was stopped by the sense that Jiwon might be revolted by him and leave him forever if he did that. Oppa, you're so cruel. Suman's voice trembled. Are you telling me to bring Jiwon back to your side again, even though you know that I like you? I like you too, he sighed. Why would I be here if I didn't? But Jiwon is different. What would people at work think when I say I'm going to marry you? So you're saying you're going to Jiwon no matter what? Suman clenched her fists. Her stomach turned inside out. Her squash pride aside, she couldn't watch Jiwon be loved by Minwon and live happily ever after. I won't ask you to marry me, Oppa. Suman forced a pretty smile on her face. I just like you. That's why I want to do anything you ask, but how am I supposed to control who Jiwon likes? Even if we're friends, that's impossible. Fine, Minwon said coldly and stood up, but she quickly grabbed his sleeve. Are you really going to be like this? She whined. You like me too. That's why you hid that sampling allergy case, isn't it? The allergy incident. He'd completely forgotten about it. Minwon grimaced and looked back at her. Why are you bringing that up now? I'm saying that's a secret between you and me. A secret that no one else knows. Yet. Her voice was sugary sweet as she cutely crinkled her eyes. Everything was going wrong, and Minwon realized this fact too late. If the company found out about that incident, it wouldn't simply end with a written account. What do you want? He sighed. Suman stood up and wrapped her arms around Minwon's waist. Sleep over tonight. I'll make hangover soup for you in the morning. See now he did fucked up. That's what you get. Freaking greedy prick. Okay. Tap, tap. Jiwon was awakened from a deep sleep when someone tapped on the door. Where am I? Her surroundings were unfamiliar as she looked around at the lofty ceilings and white interior. About 10 seconds later, she realized she was in the hotel and jolted out of bed. Tap, tap. Someone knocked on her door again. It was definitely Ji-hyuk. Just a minute. How could she have fallen asleep so deeply? Jiwon brushed her teeth and washed her face at a furious speed, finishing by tidying up her hair. Putting on makeup or styling her hair were luxuries she couldn't afford at the moment. Are you ready? Yes, sir. Jiwon opened the door. Having gotten ready in less than 10 minutes, she stood in front of Ji-hyuk, who looked more tired than usual today, and quickly moved to his side. Let's head down and eat, then leave for work right away, he said. Eat? Breakfast, he clarified. Eating breakfast with her boss at a hotel on a weekday, there were so many ways it could go wrong. We be late for work? She asked hesitantly. I made sure we have enough time. She checked the time to see that he was right. It was still early. Unable to find any other excuse, she followed Ji Hyuk into the restaurant. The hotel restaurant was empty since it was the morning of a weekday. Ji Hyuk chose a window seat, then pulled out Ji Won's seat for her. Stay here, he said. I can get my own food. It was a buffet-style restaurant. Ji Hyuk held her chair and pushed it back in when she tried to stand up. Isn't the boyfriend supposed to bring the food? He asked. Boyfriend? Ji-won looked at him flustered. He looked back at her steadily. What? You asked me to pretend to be your boyfriend. That was yesterday. You didn't say how long it was supposed to last. Ji-won opened her mouth but couldn't say anything. No matter how much she dug through her memory, she couldn't remember how long she asked him to pretend. She felt like she had fallen into a crafty trap. Then how long? Let's talk about it while eating. He left Ji-won alone and headed for the buffet. A moment later, plates of food that were good for a light breakfast appeared in front of her. Thank you. She felt hungry after seeing the food. Ji-won decided to be brazen and dug in. This is good, she said after eating a bite of freshly cooked omelet. Ji-hyuk cut a piece from the opposite side of the same omelet and tried it as well. It is. Her fork froze. Ji-hyuk smiled. The corners of his mouth had raised so subtly that it was hard to tell unless you were looking closely, but the ice around him momentarily lifted and revealed a soft layer beneath. He went from Siberian Husky to a Labrador Retriever. The random thought flashed through Ji-won's mind. Why are you looking at me like that? Ji-hyuk asked as he poured water into her glass. His lips were back into a straight line like they always were. He's a Siberian Husky again. When you smile, Ji-won paused to think of the appropriate words. A large brown dog with shiny hair was sitting handsomely in her imagination. It's cute. Is this appropriate? Ji-won was surprised at her own words, but she wasn't as surprised as Ji-hyuk was. He stared at Ji-won without blinking, with the fork still in his hand. It seemed as if time had stopped only for him in this entire restaurant. So cute. So stinking cute. That's not what I meant. What I was saying is, Ji-won hurriedly backtracked from ending up speaking nonsense again. You're like a puppy. Ji-hyuk was extremely confused. He tried to interpret her words, but it was impossible. So, Ji-hyuk slowly put his fork down solemnly. Are you saying I'm like a dog? Not a dog, a puppy. A Labrador Retriever, she said. A Labrador Retriever? He raised an eyebrow. Ji-won made exaggerated gestures with her arms as she tried to explain. You know, the brown dog. It's big, listens well, smart, and pretty. She tried to clarify, but the more she spoke, the deeper she was digging her grave. Realizing the situation was becoming worse, she stopped and hung her head. Let's hurry and eat. We should get to work. Oh. Good morning. Hello. The employees greeted each other as they entered the office, but their next reactions were all the same. Mr. Yu isn't here yet. Ji-won buried her guilty conscience. Ji-hyuk had dropped her nearby the building first and said he was going to be late today. He said it was better for him to be late since he wasn't going to be at work by the time he usually arrived anyway. This would probably be Ji-hyuk's first tardy since entering the company. Hello. Minwon entered the office and sat down next to her. Ji-won could feel his gaze scan her untouched hair, bare face, and the same clothes as yesterday. It was a dirty feeling that crawled up her shoulders. Miss Yu! Ji-won stood up and signaled Hugh Yeon. Do you want to get some morning coffee? Yes! Hugh Yeon scurried and followed her into the break room. Ji-won actually had coffee earlier, but she had something to speak to Hugh Yeon about. Is the apartment you talked about yesterday still on the table? She asked. Hugh Yeon nodded with some fierce head-banging at Ji-won's question. Of course, of course, of course! We said we were going to see it this weekend. I want to see it today. Is that doable? Very, of course. Hugh Yeon said confidently. Her lips trembled with happiness when Jiwon said she wanted to see the apartment right away. That's an excellent decision. I'll let the apartment owner know immediately. It's a perfect home that hasn't been put on the market. Thanks. I'll treat you to a meal soon, Jiwon promised. You should have a housewarming party. I'll buy you the best kind of toilet paper. A housewarming party sounds perfect. Jiwon didn't want to live a day longer at a place that Sumin, Minwon, or even Sang Chol could find if they wanted to. She didn't own too many possessions and planned to pay extra money if it was necessary to move immediately. That afternoon, Jiwon and Hugh Yeon headed to the apartment as soon as they got off work. Jiwon had thought it was the large studio, but she learned it was actually a new apartment in a nice neighborhood. You lived here alone? Wasn't it too expensive? She asked. It's thanks to my parents, although I live in a one-room apartment now. Oh, uh, with my recommendation, you'll be able to negotiate the price, so don't worry, Hugh Yeon assured her. Jiwon could tell Hugh Yeon had grown up loved and without wanting or for anything from the way she spoke and acted. She nodded and followed Hugh Yeon into the front door. It was an apartment that seemed too large to live alone in. The sun illuminated the living room through a big window, and the tiles, wallpaper, and other appliances seemed high quality at a glance. Jiwon exclaimed in astonishment as she followed Hugh Yeon through all the doors. How is it? Perfect, isn't it? Hugh Yeon's eyes flashed expectantly as she opened the door to the bathroom decorated in black tiles. I like it, but it's a bit too spacious to use alone. There's another apartment I can show you. It's about 1.5 pyong. Jiwon frowned. That's too small. Exactly. Do you want to move to a spacious home or a small one? She had amazing persuasion skills. Jiwon listened to Hugh Yeon speak like she was possessed. One study room, one bedroom, and one storage room. It's not too big in the slightest. You'd have room for your friends to sleep over it, too. I can also occasionally come by and we can go to work together. There's a security guard and lots of cameras around the building, and cars must get permission to enter, too. There's no safer place for a woman to live alone. On top of that, the price is negotiable. You can move in right away. It's clean, the landlord doesn't bother you, the apartment faces south, and the maintenance fees are cheap too. And it's a great location for public transportation. It's super easy to order delivery. Okay. Jiwon stopped her rambling. She decided to leave Hugh Yeon in charge of the next briefing. It wasn't easy to produce a speech on the spot while speaking clearly without any rest. Can I sign the papers today? I'll take a day off as soon as I can move my things. As expected of my lifesaver. Such a wise and bold decision. Hugh Yeon made a fuss and raised her phone high in the air like a goddess of victory. I'll call the secretary. Secretary? The landlord is rich. The secretary takes care of small matters like this, Hugh Yeon explained. Hugh Yeon leaned on the kitchen island and called the secretary. Hi, Miss Han? Yes, of course. I'm doing well. Work? It's a bit crappy, but oh well. That's work for you. Actually, I was calling because... Yu Yeon chattered on the phone for a while and smiled after hanging up. She wants to meet at the cafe out front. A lawyer's going to come too, so you can sign right away. Let's go. It was a lightning speed real estate agreement, considering that it was strange that she was able to get this spacious apartment for such a great price. Oh, Hugh Yeon. Yes? Please keep it a secret from the office that I'm moving. Hugh Yeon squinted her eyes. It's because of a certain someone, I see, she guessed. Keep it a secret if you know. Jiwon raised her finger to her lips and chuckled. Hugh Yeon sighed heavily and led her back to the elevator. I will. After all, you have to throw away the garbage truck to make space for a Benz. True. Minwon and Sumin are the garbage. And Ji-hyuk and Hugh Yeon are the Benz. And Joran, Hugh Yeon, Ji-hyuk, all the girlies that came and apologized to her, Unho, they're the Benzes. But Suman is so pathetic. Suman is the most pathetic piece of shit. I feel bad for her to an extent because there's something going on up there that she would bend over backwards for somebody who doesn't even like her in the slightest. Well, he likes her enough to fuck her, but like he has no respect for her like whatsoever. But as long as he's not happy and as long as Jiwon's not happy, she'll do whatever she can. Disgusting. But some of the top comments, that last line was awesome. Agreed. Uh yes, my girl, throw away the garbage truck for the bins. LOL. I'm getting that Mr. Yu owns that apartment building. I feel like he does too. I think Hugh Yeon is the lifesaver. Yes, she is the lifesaver. Glad to see Suman already getting a taste of Jiwon's old life. Yes. All right, so that's it for chapter 47. And I will be back with chapter 48, the identity of the homeowner. See you then. And we're back with chapter 48, the identity of the homeowner. Hugh Yeon and Jiwon met the secretary named Miss Han at the cafe across from the apartments. She looked to be in her mid-40s. She had a shrewd expression and wore a pantsuit. Miss Han, it's been so long, Hugh Yeon said. Miss Han briefly nodded to the enthusiastic Hugh Yeon. It's been a while, miss. I told you to call me Hugh Yeon, she giggled as she introduced Jiwon. This is my favorite superior at the office. She said she was urgently looking for a place to move into, so I told her about the apartment. Hello, my name is Jiwon Kang. Jiwon nodded nervously and handed her a business card. The secretary examined the card and dug into her own pockets, then clicked her tongue with a troubled look. I'm sorry, I was in a rush. I didn't bring my business card. It's okay. I'll get your number from Hugh Yeon next time, said Jiwon. Thank you. Soon the lawyer arrived. The certified copies of the register, lease agreement, and other documents were spread out before Jiwon. Gumran Cha is the homeowner. As you already know, I came as her legal proxy, and this is a notarized document. I see. Gulram Cha. It was a familiar name, but no matter how hard Jiwon tried to recall it, she didn't remember where it was from. The contract will start on this day. Since it's an empty apartment, you can move in on a date that's comfortable for you. I heard you wanted to move in quickly, said Miss Han. Contrary to her icy exterior, she paid attention to every tiny detail. This is the maintenance office number. You can call when the dates are confirmed. Please call me if there's anything you need while living here. Thank you for your care, Jiwon said with a grin. A smile appeared on Miss Han's face. Miss Hugh Yeon complimented you so much, so I'm giving the apartment to you in good faith. Miss Han! Hugh Yeon struck the table embarrassed as Miss Han smiled at her again and stood up and gathered the documents. I'll take my leave now, Miss Jiwon. I'll see you again next time. Did they have a reason to see each other again? Jiwon thought to herself and bowed to Miss Han and the lawyer. You two seem close. How do you know her? Hugh Yeon's eyes trembled at Jiwon's question, and she laughed awkwardly. I know the homeowner's secretary as the former leaser. But why does she call you Miss? Hugh Yeon paused for a moment with a serious expression. Is this something she can't talk about? Jiwon didn't dig into it further and collected her documents. Hugh Yeon watched her and began to mutter to herself, Well, I suppose it's not anything to hide. Miss Han, Hugh Yeon pointed at the name on the letter of the attorney. She's my mom's secretary. That means she slid her finger up and tapped on the name. Gulram Cha, this is your mom? Your mother? Jiwon asked in surprise. You just rented your mom's apartment to me? Yes, there's no one to occupy it since I won't be using it. Then you should use it. Why are you living in a studio? This apartment isn't too far from work either. I became independent. I worked a part-time job to pay for the deposits of my current place, and I live off my salary. Hugh Yeon laughed. Ji-won was astonished. She had assumed Hugh Yeon was from a wealthy household, but she was even richer than she thought. Moreover, she was independent and smart too. You're incredible. If I had a little sister like you, I would carry you around all the time. You're so funny, my lifesaver. Hugh Yeon doubled over in laughter and grabbed her stomach. I'm not incredible. I just tutored students and worked at restaurants when I had time during school. Hugh Yeon laughed again. That's why you're incredible. If I were you, I would have used my parents' money while attending school. Ji-won hadn't been able to attend any gatherings or school events when she was in college. Aside from the fact that she was shy and didn't have any friends, she didn't want to ask her dad for pocket money when he was already working so hard to raise her. I did take my mom's card when I didn't have money to eat sometimes, Hugh Yeon said. Oh, right. Where did you graduate from, my lifesaver? H University. Whoa. Hugh Yeon bounced like she had made a fascinating discovery. You went to the same school as Mr. Yu? You never saw him around? Really? I never saw him there. He's from my school? What major? This was the first time she had something in common with Ji-hyuk. Hugh Yeon became more excited as Ji-won showed interest. Physical education. Doesn't it suit him? Not really. It didn't suit him at all, Ji-won thought. He might have majored in finance, business, or even law, but he had majored in physical education? Really? Hugh Yeon tilted her head and then spoke in a peppy voice again. He had no choice. His only options were engineering or physical education, but he didn't know anything about engineering. Why were those his only options? She asked, intrigued. There were too many girls. Never mind. That's a bit too personal. You should ask him yourself when you get the chance. Hugh Yeon ended the conversation with a little bait for Ji-won. Ji-won was curious, but it wasn't her style to fish for answers. Ooh. I thought she was going to admit that they were actually brother and sister. But they're just close friends. Ji-won and Hugh Yeon. Arrgh. Ji-won's body was aching all over. She had mistakenly assumed it would be easy to move her things, and she despaired seeing her house become messier and messier the more she touched it. She didn't even have that many possessions. Why was it so hard to tidy them up? I only took one day off. If she couldn't finish today, she would have to come home after working overtime to clean again tomorrow. She groaned and jumped on a pile of dusty clothes. Bzz, bzz. Her pocket vibrated. Ji-won pulled out her phone and answered the call. Hi, G.A. What you doing? Are you with Yoon-hyo and Senna? How'd you know? You're using the dialect, Ji-won giggled. G.A. used the Seoul dialect, but when she was around her hometown friends, she strangely used an intense Busan dialect. You're sharp. They came over to visit my shop today, and now we're just hanging around. You should come over after you get off work for a glass of beer, too, she offered. I can't. I'm moving my things today. I'll have to spend the night if I want to finish cleaning. You moved? Why so suddenly? G.A. asked. I was able to get a new apartment for a good price thanks to a friend at work, and I broke up with my boyfriend too, so... What the heck? Senna suddenly jumped in noisily. Ji-won automatically moved the phone away from her ear and brought it closer again. What? How can you have not told us you broke up with your boyfriend? How did you break up? Why? Did you lose affection for him? Did he cheat? Gamble? Did you guys fight? Senna asked the questions in rapid-fire succession. Ji-won blinked. Wow, there are so many things you want to know. The sounds of bickering came through the phone, and G.A. suddenly shouted after taking a break. Send me the address. We'll come and help you. It's okay, I'm hanging up. Jiwon contemplated for a moment and sent Jie her address. About an hour later, Jie, Yoonhyo, and Sena rang her up from the parking lot. They brought a large plastic bag with various cleaning tools, detergent, and rubber gloves. Phew, what a mess, Jie exclaimed as she walked in. It was the truth. It's bad, isn't it? Jiwon sighed. It's better than my room, Sena chimed in as she took her shoes off. Anyway, spill. About your boyfriend. Why did you break up? How? Put on a mask. You're so noisy. Yoon-hyo chided as she threw a mask at the back of Sena's head. The vacant and quiet apartment finally felt a little like home. Jiwon picked up the mask and put it on Sena with a smile. His parents told me to do all the housework and cook for him fresh rice every morning. They wanted me to earn money and have kids too. Wow. Did they say they were giving you a house in a rich neighborhood like Pyeongchang-dong? Pyeongchang-dong? I'm sorry, I butchered that. Wow, did they say they were giving you a house in a rich neighborhood like Pyeongchang-dong in your name? Sena asked. Pyeongchang-dong, my ass. My ex lost all his savings and is broke now. All he has is his body. Yoon-hyo chimed in. Ugh. Jie made a face like she had stepped in dog poop. And you're expected to make fresh rice for him every morning? He should be grateful you don't slap his balls with the rice paddle every morning. Oh my God, I freaking love them. They would probably throw a hissy fit if she told him Minwon and Sumin were having an affair. It was already difficult for Sumin's reputation to become any worse among their classmates, but it would probably reach rock bottom if she shared that. A few people would probably curse Sumin themselves. Women angrily bonded together over things like this. And do. And do. So I told them I'm not getting married and left, Jiwon said. It turned out well since any feelings I had left for him evaporated on the spot. Good thing, huh? She didn't say a word about their relationship, though. People were going to know soon anyway, and it was more advantageous for her to be pitied after people found out rather than spread the word herself as the victim. That's true. Good. If you just nodded and agreed to what they said, you'd have dug your own grave. Yoon-hyo patted Jiwon's shoulders, half complimenting her and half consoling her. What happened with Sangchul? Did anything come of it? Jie asked suddenly, as if she'd just remembered. The conversation naturally flowed to Ji-hyuk as Jiwon explained what happened. When Sangchul came to her apartment, between the four women, there were no breaks in their chatting. Jiwon's classmates added their 2 cents and reacted to what she said as they all cleaned together. Unbelievable. Did she screw you over again? And it turns out your boss wasn't actually trash? Sena murmured apologetically when Jiwon finished telling her how Ji-hyuk had paid for a hotel room for her. I apologized to him after that. I'll be back after throwing this away. Jiwon lifted 2 plastic bags full of old clothes to escape the endless conversation. Jie clicked her tongue and took the bags from Jiwon like they were balloons. You bring the boxes next to these. Why are you so weak? Thanks. Jie carried the bags of old clothes while Jiwon brought up the piled up boxes and recyclable materials. Just then, a tall man from next door walked out and stood in front of the elevator with them. Jie, can you really hold all that? Jiwon asked as she adjusted the stacks of recyclable materials that reached above her head. Just then, the man standing behind them spoke in a deep voice. Do you need some help? It's okay, Jie quickly poked Jiwon in the ribs as she was about to turn down the man's offer to help. Could you? We're starting to struggle because it's too heavy. Was this really the same Jie Han who lifted the plastic bags with her fingers earlier? And why is she talking like that? Jiwon was flabbergasted. Yes, we're headed for the recycling bins, aren't you? The man said. Yes, thank you. Jiwon's fingers trembled on the boxes she was holding at Jie's high-pitched voice. I was wondering who was moving next door. I didn't know it was pretty ladies like you. Is there anything I can help you with? The man asked. You're helping enough by carrying out stuff. How can I repay you? No need. I was heading out too anyway. Jiwon sped towards the recycling bins as quickly as she could so she didn't have to hear GA's fake squeaky voice. As she organized the recycling, the man arrived and set down the boxes. Jiwon's eyes widened when she saw the man's face. It was the staff member from the hotel she went to with Ji-hyuk, the employee who brought them the pork and rice soup. Are you serious? What? There was no way there was another man in South Korea with the height, size, and scary expression. What is it, Jiwon? Ga asked in a high-pitched voice she had no doubt learned from Senna. Oh, it's nothing. Thank you for your help. Of course, I'll see you around. The man didn't seem to have recognized Jiwon, understandably. He wouldn't remember me when he sees hundreds of fresh faces at the hotel every day. Jiwon didn't act like she knew him and just nodded politely. Ga seemed to be hoping their interaction lasted longer. I really like him. He's my ideal type, Ga muttered as they ascended in the elevator again. Your ideal type is a scary man. Not a scary man, a manly man. Her eyes sparkled. I like bulky guys like that. Did you see how thick his arms were? And how manly was that face? Jiwon recalled how Ga had furiously declared Eunho wasn't her type. If the man from earlier was any indication, Ga's ideal type was definitely not Eunho. I know that person. Really? You didn't say hi to him earlier, though. Ga's eyes flashed. When I went to the hotel room with Mr. Yu, that person brought in the room service. A hotel worker? Awesome. That's super sexy, she muttered dreamily, having fallen more in love. Then she suddenly grabbed Jiwon's hand. Jiwon, can't you help me this once? I'll repay this favor even if it means I have to grind my bones. You don't need to grind your bones. Jiwon firmly shook her head as she thought of Hugh Yeon, who still constantly insisted she was repaying Jiwon for that one sanitary pad. How can I help you? It's not much. Can you just get that guy's number for me? If you see him around, I'll take care of the rest myself. Jiwon had never asked for a man's number before, but it wasn't too hard if it was for someone else. She nodded. Okay, I'll give you the number after I get it. Jiwon, you're an angel. Apparently deeply in love, Ga tightly embraced Jiwon and repeatedly thanked her about 10 times. However, Jiwon didn't see the man for a while. She heard the door opening very early in the morning, or when it was very late at night after she came home from overtime. A hotel employee's tasks were a lot more arduous than she thought. Okay, so did he move into that apartment? Or was he like, I don't believe it's a coincidence. I think he moved, I think Ji-hyuk had him move in so he could watch her to make sure that she didn't get harassed by that guy, Sang-chul or Minwon or Sumin. Like, so none of them came out to bother her. I think he planted him there to help her out, even though Jiwon thinks he's scary. I think he would be even scarier to anybody else that came to mess with her. But that chapter was really good. I love the girlies. Who is it? Senna, Ga, and what is her name? I can't remember. Ga, Senna, and Yoonhyo. I freaking love them, and they're adorable. I'm really happy that she's getting to hang out with people that actually are her friends and give her really good advice and actually cheer her up and console her. Don't just put her down to make themselves feel better or to be fake friends. I can't wait until they find out about Sumin and Minwon. They are going to go scorched earth, and I can't freaking wait. But that's the end of chapter 48. I kind of did one. Oh, excuse me. I did want to read some of the comments because I'm pretty sure probably everybody else probably has the same idea that I do, that Ji-hyuk had something to do with it. Let's see. Having read the completed story on webtoon, I am firmly committed to not posting any spoilers. Firmly shuts mouth. Of course, if someone wanted to find out what happens, they could easily check out the complete story on webtoon, just saying. I love that the mean girls have stuck around. They didn't just apologize and ghost. They are actively being good friends. Yes, I really enjoy that. I like that we get to know them more, because in the webtoon, you don't really see them that much. And in the drama, you didn't see them that much either. But here, since you can add more to it, I like that they're getting fleshed out and you're getting to see their character development, because I'm really actually enjoying them. I enjoyed them in both the webtoon and the drama, but you don't really get that much, you don't know that much about them. But I like them. I really like all three of them. I'm happy they've reformed, and they're, after they found out that they were being bullies. But yes. And we'll be getting right to chapter 49 because I'm so excited. I want to know what happens. All right. Bye. All right. And we are back with chapter 49, Minwon's regret. Oh, well, we're pretty sure he's regretting a lot right now. Days passed without anything happening. As the deadline for the new product approached, Jiwon and Joran worked overtime more often than not. They were beyond busy. Phew! I'm so tired, Joran said as she came out of the break room where she'd just been getting some quick shut-eye. She had skipped lunch for some sleep. Jiwon was also exhausted to the point that Sumin and Minwon were the last of her worries. We're going to die at this rate. How many days are left until the official product launch again? Joran asked. 1 week. Ugh. Joran's new product was now finished with all the steps and was awaiting its launch. The project progressed at a quicker pace than what even Ji-hyuk said would be tight. All the team members worked hard, but Jun-suk contributed the most, working overtime 3 to 4 days per week like it was his own project. Is it a contribution? Jiwon was worn down because Jun-suk took care of things so quickly after her workload and was so rushed. Hugh-yeon teared up at how pitiful Jiwon was. Do you want some sweet coffee? Should I buy some? Hugh-yeon offered. If you're not busy, I'd be super grateful. Here, take my card. Jiwon never accepted favors from anyone, but this time she accepted Hugh-yeon's goodwill so she could survive. Hugh-yeon refused to take her card, though. I'll get it this time, Hugh-yeon said. As soon as she finished speaking, a large hand suddenly popped up from Ji-hyuk's seat. Here, Miss Yu, he said, giving her his card. Thank you. After safely securing the funds, Hugh-yeon headed down to the Blue Cafe with the light steps. The lunch rush had just passed, so Eun-ho looked up from where he was doing the dishes with a smile. Oh, you're alone today, Miss Yu. My lifesaver is super busy. 20 iced Americanos, please. Can you please hurry? Oh my gosh. Can you carry it up by yourself? Darn. Hugh-yeon slapped her knee. You're right. What should I do? What else? I'll have to deliver them. Have this while you wait, he said, giving her a treat. Hugh-yeon eagerly chewed the cookie Eun-ho gave her and watched him pour the coffee. What an honest and hardworking guy. It was rare to find someone this handsome, tall, and well-built with exceptional cooking abilities and who always had a smile. On top of that, his personal life was exceptionally clean. More than a few female employees came to the cafe every morning and evening to see Eun-ho, but no one had gotten his number yet. Ji-hyuk or Eun-ho? Who should Miss Guardian Angel end up with to be happier? Hugh-yeon was faced with a greater problem than choosing between Jampyong and Jjamjangmyeon when ordering Korean Chinese food. In the meantime, the coffee was finished. Hugh Yeon and Eunho left the cafe with both their hands filled with cups. People were sneaking glances at them during their trek to the office. Coffee! Oh, thanks. Jiwon said, holding her hand out. The hand that was giving her the coffee wasn't Hugh Yeon's light and slender hand. It was a familiar man's hand. Jiwon's gaze traveled up his arm in shirt and stopped at his face. Coffee delivery, Eunho grinned. Jiwon saw him nearly every day, but it felt different seeing him inside at work. You brought it for us? There was a lot, he explained. Jiwon quickly stood up after discovering Minwon glowering at Eunho. Thanks. Let's go. I'll see you off. Jiwon and Eunho quietly left the office to go to the elevator hall. Sumin squinted from where she had been, waiting to greet him. Why didn't he say hi to me? Did he not see me behind the partition? She wasn't going to let this slide. Instead, Sumin silently stood up and left the office. At the end of the hallway, Jiwon and Eunho were smiling and chatting in front of the elevator. Eunho! Jiwon looked back at Sumin's voice. Eunho seemed to glance back as well as Sumin raised her hand and waved it enthusiastically. It's so good to see you in the office. Thanks for the... Just when she had almost reached the two of them, the elevator door opened and Eunho strolled in. Sumin could see his icy eyes on her as the door shut. You came to say hi? Ooh, I love it. I love he glared the fuck out of her. You came to say hi? Sumin quickly fixed her face with a smile at Jiwon's expression. Yeah, I guess Eunho didn't see me. Yeah, let's go back into the office now. Jiwon hadn't said anything about the letter, the lies, and how Sumin came between them to Eunho. Eunho didn't bring the topic up either, but Eunho also had friends who knew about the incident, so he'd probably heard things through the grapevine. He was smart, and it was likely he had an idea of what happened. The elevator hall was empty after Jiwon left first. Sumin gritted her teeth and looked at herself reflecting on the closed elevator door. She spun around and returned to the office. No matter how much Minwon waited, Jiwon showed no indication of returning to him. She had probably blocked him, and she relayed work-related messages to him through emails or the company's messaging system. He had gone to her house a few times, but wasn't able to glimpse her shadow. I have to do something. He stood in front of the villa entrance with a bouquet in his hands. Punching the numbers of a familiar apartment, he took a deep breath and pressed the call button that would ring in her apartment. Who is it? It was the annoyed voice of a young man. Minwon's contained anger finally exploded. He hurled the bouquet in his hand onto the ground. You motherfucker! Who are you? What? Who are you? The man shouted angrily upon suddenly being sworn at when he'd only been home resting. You're the punk from last time, aren't you? Get out here. Where's Jiwon? What bullshit are you going on about in the middle of the night? Don't move an inch and stay there. The intercom crackled. With the sound of thundering stomps, a massive man came down huffing. It clearly wasn't the man Jiwon had disappeared with that night. You sick bastard, the man shouted threateningly as he pushed his face right up against Minwon's. Son of a bitch. I already have insomnia as it is and can't sleep. What kind of bullshit are you pulling in the middle of the night? Minwon's anger management issues were miraculously cured in an instant. I think I have the wrong apartment. That's all you have to say after waking me up from my sleep? I'm tired as hell because I was moving my things all day. Minwon's eyes widened. Moving your things? Yes, punk. The man shook his pot-like fists. Minwon forgot about being scared and hung tight to the man's arm so he could ask questions. When did you move here? Do you know the person who used to live here? The woman who lived here alone? Minwon asked urgently. Woman? The man looked at Minwon and the ruined bouquet on the floor as he clicked his tongue. Minwon was obviously someone who was dumped and was pathetically holding on to the relationship. Oh, so this is why that girl ran away. Fuck, I can't even beat you up because you're so pathetic. Lucky fucker. The man swore under his breath and spit on the ground. I moved in here 3 days ago, and the apartment was empty for a while before that. Get lost now. I'm going to sleep. Minwan stared at the man's back blankly. I should have chased after her then. If I had punched that bastard's brazen face and clearly warned Jiwon, things wouldn't have come to this far. He felt another burst of anger at the thought that Suman's sudden appearance had made him miss the timing. His phone vibrated. The first thing that came to his mind that could be Jiwon. He frantically pulled his phone out and his face crumpled. Suman Jong from work. That's how he has her saved. He didn't want to hear her voice right now. The tiny amount of affection he felt for her had turned into resentment, irritation, and disgust. Chills ran down his back every time she called him Oppa. He stomped on the scattered petals and descended the stairs. Leaving his car parked in the street, he headed for the street bar he often went to with Jiwon. A bottle of soju, please, Minwan ordered when he arrived. Any side dishes? The owner asked as she sliced some cucumbers. Minwan was about to tell her there was no need, but changed his mind. Fish cake soup. It'll be out soon. Soon a warm pot was placed in front of him. Minwan glugged the soju into a glass and took consecutive shots. It tasted extra bitter today. He habitually pulled out his phone and dialed Jiwon, but all that awaited him was the familiar voice of the voicemail. The person you are calling is not available. Please leave a message after the tone. An annoying beep rang in his ears. Minwan left a message for Jiwon that she probably wouldn't even check. Jiwon, let's talk. I'll forgive you this time. I can't overlook how you were rude to my mother and how you met another guy. You're not going to do that anymore, right? Don't be scared and give me a call. Bitch. Bitch ass motherfucker. He shut his phone and ran his hand through his hair. He didn't even have any memories of how he got back home. When he stepped through the front door fully drunk, Jaeok came running out in surprise. Minwan, why did you drink so much? Oh, it's my mom. Minwan grinned and hugged Jaeok. Mom, talk to Jiwon for me. I'm going to get married to Jiwon, okay? What are you talking about? Jaeok frowned and pushed Minwan to his bed. Under the bright light, she saw the state of her son was in. His necktie was who knew where, leaving his collar empty, and there was a soup stain on his shirt. But the most absurd thing was his swollen eyes and the tear stains on his face. Did you cry? Oh my goodness, just because of that girl, she scolded. Jiwon, Minwan moaned instead of responding. I'd said I'd forgive you. You're also reflecting on your actions, right? We have to get married. Jaeok was about to leave in frustration and then bent over when she discovered an item on the floor. It was Minwan's phone. There was no password. That lady would take good care of my son. She swallowed and opened his contacts. His recent call lists were filled with unanswered calls to Jiwon. There was an occasional call from the name Suman Jeong. Oh my God. Jaeok quickly copied the number into her phone and sent a message. How are you doing these days? This is Minwan's mom. Minwan seems to be having a tough time after breaking up with his girlfriend. Could you tell me how he is at work? Thank you. The next day, Minwan barely opened his eyes thanks to Jaeok shouting and crawled to work after drinking a cup of honey water. There was a shadow of a mustache under his nose, and his cheeks were sunken in. Jiwon pretended not to see him. Jiwon, can we? She walked past him without sparing him a single glance. Hyo-yeon stuck by Jiwon's side as if she was her new boyfriend. Minwan was on the verge of losing his mind. Perhaps he had already lost it. He had noticeably lost weight, his eyes were sunken in, and his skin was dry. People thought Jiwon was too cruel for cutting him off so harshly without giving him any more chances. I feel bad for Mr. Park. His face has halved in the span of a couple of months. Jiwon listened to what some people were saying from inside the break room. It's understandable. They were even talking about getting married. Miss Kang is heartless. They had a public relationship for so long, and she doesn't even look at him now. Do you think it's because she found someone else? People at work will talk, I suppose. Jiwon was about to turn around when she heard Suman's voice. No, my Jiwon isn't like that. Why am I your Jiwon? She wanted to shout at Suman. It's not because she found someone else. Yeah, the man chased her one-sidedly. There's no way my Jiwon would do that. There's actually was another man involved? The person who brought up Jiwon finding another man seemed more surprised. I said there wasn't. Jiwon just ate with him a few times. You know how nice she is, really. Jiwon could vividly picture what kind of expression and gestures Suman was making, even clearer than if been seeing them herself. It didn't matter. Jiwon was going to resign anyway, and Suman and Minwon were going to get married. She didn't care about what other people thought, but it was only a matter of time before their opinions changed. So, who's the guy? Another employee asked curiously. Suman hesitated. What kind of story is she going to make up this time? Jiwon soon found out and was dumbfounded by what she heard. The new cafe owner out front. Jiwon must have had trouble turning him down because they knew each other before this, but Jiwon isn't the bad one. People's minds always change. Never mind. Anyway, this is a secret, okay? Jiwon's anger flared. She almost stormed out of the break room and screamed at Suman. Why would she make things up? You should just come after me. Why would you make Eunho the object of judgment? However, she forced herself not to. No matter what she said, people would believe what they wanted to. If she went inside and denied it, it would only make things worse. I'll stay quiet for now. Jiwon took a deep breath. Just until you dig a large enough hole for yourself. A hole large enough to fit a coffin. I think it's getting there. I think it's getting there, Jiwon. You don't got to hold on that much longer. I don't want her to quit though, but I understand. Ooh, and the next chapter seems like it might be the coffin. Or almost big enough to be the coffin. Chapter 50 is called Deeper and Deeper. And seems fitting after she brought up the coffin comment. This chapter also is getting good, y'all. We're about to be halfway, I think. There's like 100 and how many chapters? Oh wow, no, we're not halfway at all. There are 181 chapters. So we're not halfway. We're like maybe a quarter of a way through. But I'm fine with that. It's getting good. And I'm enjoying it. Let me read some of the comments. But yeah, this chapter was good. I hate Suman had to drag Eunho into it again, like he did back in high school, because she's a pathetic piece of shit. It's hilarious that Minwon's mom, Jaeok, got her phone number so she could text Suman. He's trying to get away from her, and his mom is like slowly putting them together, like pushing them together. And I don't feel bad at all that he looks like a piece of shit now. He's starting to look like how he is inside, and it's fitting. Let's see. Jiwon, let's talk. I'll forgive you this time. I could overlook how you were rude to my mother and how you met another guy. You're not going to do that anymore, right? Don't be scared and give me a call. That's the top comment. Unbelievable. It really is. Ugh, she is so fake. I can't wait for her downfall. I want it now. Ugh, me too. Let me like that comment. Make that room for 2 coffins. Yes, because that asshole Minwon deserves to spend the rest of his eternity with that fake bitch. Whew. Oh, okay. Here's somebody's theory. Eunho is also from the future like Jiwon and Jihyuk. He must have learned about the letters sometime in the future. But by that point, Jiwon had married Minwon, so he left her alone. Then, after somehow coming to the past, he decided to try to get closer to her sooner. I don't think in the original timeline that Eunho bought the cafe next to her workplace. So if he didn't come from the future, what changed? Her going through to the reunion, I think. Because she went last time, but she got bullied and hid in the bathroom, I think. She got bullied and hid in the bathroom. So she didn't get to tell everybody the truth and then find out what really went on. And Eunho showed up because Ji-hyuk went to him. That's what changed. But yes, that's the end of chapter 49. And I know chapter 50 is going to be good. But thanks for listening. We'll be back with chapter 50. Bye. All right, and we're back with chapter 50, Deeper and Deeper. Oh, it's him. On the way back home, Ji-won saw a large man standing in front of the first floor elevator and approached him. She checked from up close that it was the same man from the hotel. Hello? The man nodded slightly at Ji-won, who greeted him in a quiet voice. Hi. I haven't seen you in a while. Thank you for helping me last time, by the way, she said. Yes, you're welcome. The man seemed to feel awkward, as did Ji-won. However, she mustered up her courage, thinking of Ji-ae, who helped her clean her new apartment in the middle of the night and even sent her a housewarming plant. Ji-won held out her phone to the man as casually as she could. Could you give me your number? What? The man's eyes widened. It was an intense reaction that made Ji-won feel self-conscious. Since we're neighbors, we should contact each other if there's ever an emergency, yeah? Oh, yes, neighbors. The man typed his number in Ji-won's phone, unable to erase the surprise on his scary face. What's your name? She asked. Sinu Kim. Sinu Kim. Ji-won punched in the name and saved it. I'm Ji-won Kang. I see, he responded. He didn't save her name. Just then, the elevator arrived and carried them up to their homes. Good night. Yes, good night. After an awkward exchange, the two of them opened their front doors. Click. Sinu's door closed. As he took off his shoes, he spoke in the softest voice he could make. Pang, Uncle's here. Meow. A black cat with white spots replied lazily from the table. It was an extreme act of kindness that cat bestowed on a mere food servant. Sinu carefully tidied up Pang's litter box, poured fresh water into a clean bowl, and filled Pang's bowl with kibble. Pang slowly descended from the table and chewed at the kibble while marking its territory in its fresh litter box. You have the best life, Sinu sighed as he stroked Pang's head. Wow! Pang's tail snapped in annoyance. Okay. Being refused by Pang, Sinu obediently backed off and pulled out his phone from his pocket. It was time to report the great incident that just took place. Boss. An impassive reply came as soon as he spoke. How's Pang? I just poured some kibble out. What a horrible temper for a cat. Hurry and bring me my clothes, the voice said. About that, boss. Sinu's voice trembled with fear and guilt. On the way, I met your wife, the woman who lives next door. Ji-hyuk was silent for a moment, but she, hurry up, Ji-hyuk ordered. Sinu squeezed his narrow eyes together and shouted, She asked me for my number. He tried to calm his anxious heart down by stroking Pang's back, but he gave up after his finger was almost chewed off. She asked you for what? Ji-hyuk's voice was also shocked and taken aback. My number, boss. She suddenly asked me for my number in front of the elevator and my name. It was silent again on the other line. Sinu blamed himself for being too popular and pulled at his hair, although it was only 5 millimeters of it because of his crew cut. the, that was all. Peng is eating well. He stuttered, just then, a message arrived. Sinu looked at the screen dubiously and almost dropped his phone. Boss? What? She just texted. Thunk. The sound of a phone falling came through the speakers. Ji-hyuk picked up his phone and spoke in a stiff voice. What did it say? He demanded. Just a minute. Sinu cleared his voice and began reading the text. Hello, I'm the person from next door who you helped with throwing out the trash last time. I hope we can keep in touch. Sinu had been so surprised that he didn't save Ji-won's number. He didn't realize this number was different from hers earlier. Don't reply. Just bring me my clothes. The call ended. Due to that conversation, the van Ji-hyuk was sitting in was a frosty hell. He hadn't expected this kind of scenario at all. He sat there like a statue for a few moments, unable to shake off the shock. Hugh Yeon was the cause of all of it. She had straightened her shoulders and declared she would be using his credit card as she spread out a contract in front of him. What's this? My lifesaver said she's moving, so I introduced her to a nice place. There's no safer place than that apartment. Mrs. Cha and Miss Kang met? No. Miss Han came for the contract. Ji-hyuk had given her another credit card. He ran a hand down his face. The huge men poked each other at the sudden dire atmosphere. Ji-hyuk didn't just avoid women. He openly ran away from them. But the woman he had asked for the number of their youngest member. It was an event that would go down in the history of JN, the security firm where about 200 bodies made of pure muscle were employed. Boss? The fiery man, Chung Hong, who had some experience under his belt, spoke up. It's time to start. While Sinu was getting your clothes, I gave orders to the others. Still, work was work. All right. Ji-hyuk's voice was already deep, but it was now as deep as a trench. Test the radios, too. Yes, sir. A mountain of men poured out of the car and disappeared. Ji-hyuk listened to the crackle of the radios and leaned his forehead on the headrest. I'm confident I won't make her cry. I'd die for her. That's a declaration. Ji-won was too difficult a creature for Ji-hyuk, who couldn't engage in proper conversation with women. Oh. Okay. The new products Joran and Ji-won had worked their tails off to prepare finally debuted to the world for the first time. Joran poured herself some water and took some calming medicine for her nervousness. What's that? Ji-won asked as she stood up after preparing to work in the field today. Calming medicine. Do you want some? Can I? Ji-won was also nervous, so she took the medicine Joran gave her. Let's go now. Let's go. Joran stood up determinedly. We're going out to the field. It was a trip to monitor the public response themselves. The two of them stepped outside the company building with notebooks that had 6 addresses of large supermarkets written on them. Ji-won felt a few people look at her judgmentally and smiled warily. What is it, Mrs. Kang? Joran asked. Nothing. H mark is first, right? Yep. Let's go according to order and come back after visiting one more place following lunch. Joran and Ji-won intended on examining if the display for the new products was well done, whether the sellers were working appropriately, and how the customers responded. Ji-won started the engine of the company car and smoothly stepped on the pedal. I have a good feeling. Don't be too worried, Mrs. Yang. I'm overreacting, aren't I? Joran giggled. It's a project I prepared for by making my parents help me. They helped at home without being able to look over their restaurant. Ji-won had a general understanding of the situation, and she felt frustrated. People never changed. Joran's husband was probably the same too. She couldn't push her nose into a colleague's family matter, so she just continued to drive silently. After a while, she spoke up. I bought a frying pan some time ago. A frying pan? Yes. It was okay for a while, but the handle fell off not too long after. It was dangerous. That really is dangerous, Duran agreed. I thought it was because I was using it wrong, so I bought glue and stuck it back on, but it kept falling off. After I glued it on thinking it would be fine this time, I almost had an accident while frying something. Then, when I went to the market one day, there was a recall notice regarding the pan. It was a faulty pan from the beginning. Even though it looked fine when I bought it, Jiwon added internally. She changed the topic. I was just reminded of it because it's the same market we're going to. I see, Duran murmured, deep in thought. She thought of how Jaehyun was acting more annoyed even though her parents were helping with the housework and caring for Yeonji. We're here. That wasn't too far, Jiwon said cheerfully. Even from far away, they could see the sampling corner was bustling with people. Their product was targeted for families of 1 to 2 people, but it was popular among housemakers as well. Jiwon smiled, seeing Joran's cheeks flushed in happiness. The two of them made short notes, took a few pictures, and moved to the next location. The location after that and the following location were all also responding to the product well. Taking into consideration that it was the morning of a weekday, it wasn't a stretch to call it a tremendous success. The two of them went through the locations in order and ate a late lunch. Now there was only one location left. It was the market that Suman had made a huge mess taking surveys in. Nervousness spread across Jiwon's face as she parked the car. According to Minwon, it had been chaotic. He said the customers and the manager were furious that they were on the verge of storming into their company headquarters. Minwon and Suman had visited the hospital for days after to alleviate the issue. She was grateful that they did that, but she couldn't allow them to smear ink on the project Duran went through hell to finish. Jiwon had wondered what action Suman would take. To be frank, she didn't need to think for long. I know you too well. She know her ass didn't do shit. Clack, clack. The sound of heels clinking against the floor echoed lividly. The sound moved from the elevator hall and stopped in front of Marketing Division 1's office. Slam! The door burst open. The employees looked towards the door in surprise and were even more surprised when they saw Joran's face. Not only were her eyes shooting daggers, but her aura was that of a murderer's. This was the same Joran who was always polite and mellow. Miss Yang did something. Joran stalked past the fumbling employee and stood in front of Suman's desk. Miss Jong. Suman looked up at Joran with wide eyes. What is it, Miss Yang? Why do you have such a scary face? Have you lost your mind? Suman's eyes widened, hearing Joran's vicious tone for the first time. The other employees all froze as well. Sorry, what did you just? I asked if you had lost your mind. Are you mad? How could you cause such an uproar and escape Mr. Kim's project? Minwon's head shot up from where he was sitting. I'm fucked. We've been caught. Miss Yang! Minwon frantically ran over and tried to stop Joran, too rushed to think of a plan. I don't know what happened, but let's take care of it quietly inside the meeting room. Everyone's working. Stay out of this, Mr. Park. This isn't something to solve quickly. Or quietly, Joran said sharply. Suman's lips trembled at her expression. Miss Yang, I don't know what you're talking about. Joran was speechless. She had never cursed in her entire life, but expletives were on the tip of her tongue. What is it? Oof. Fortunately, before the curses could leave her mouth, Ji-hyuk came out of his office. Joran attempted to speak calmly. Our new product, Miss Jong made a giant disaster, and she didn't report any of it. Joran and Jiwon had roamed around the market for a long time as they searched for the product. There weren't any signs or promotional staff. Joran immediately brought it up with the manager, but she was giving harsh treatment in a situational report of the incident. We aren't going to pick a fight with a large corporation like UNK, but don't you think it was too much? Not even giving us an apology? I don't know what about anything else, but our branch won't be selling this product. People gasped as Joran spoke. A contract employee could make a mistake. However, hiding it from work without any report and burying it required some nerve. Let's continue speaking about it inside, Ji-hyuk said solemnly. Miss Jong, disciplinary action can wait until after this issue is solved. Joran followed Ji-hyuk into his office. Suman's gaze landed on Ji-won, who was hidden behind the people until now. She didn't seem taken aback or angry, just composed and peaceful. Wait, Mr. Yu, Miss Yang! Suman pleadingly stopped Ji-hyuk and Joran. I'm sorry. I was going to report it, but I was so scared. Scared? What if this was reported to the media? Joran shouted, losing her temper. Tears formed in Suman's eyes and dripped down her cheeks. Miss Yang, I'm sorry. I wasn't thinking it through. I was worried about Ji-won. I mean, Miss Kang. She cried pitifully. This bitch. That's the end of chapter 50. Oh, I want to wail on this fake ass hoe. And we already knew this was going to happen because what she said to Min-won when the incident happened, she was already trying to blame it on Ji-won. But she got some fucking nerve thinking those two people would believe her story. Ooh. Okay. She had me heated. Okay, let me read some of the comments. I have never wanted to punch a fictional character more in my whole life. When some genius finds out how to break the fourth wall, my ass is sailing right over to Suman like one like equals one hit. She has 96 because I just liked it. Is there a day where she doesn't try to blame Ji-won for her mistakes? Like in the name of, I'm protecting Ji-won. What kind of 27-year-old working adult still cries so easily like a baby? I don't know how she doesn't have any shame. Oh, she don't got no shame. But that's the end of chapter 50. Woo! Woo! These 5 chapters were awesome. If you enjoy the video, please give it a like, comment which chapter was your favorite, and subscribe. And I'll be back in about 2 weeks with the next set of chapters. Whew, we ended on a cliffhanger. Woo. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you have a great day, afternoon, evening, whatever time it is that you're listening. And I will see you later. Bye.